We're going to call the Agriculture, Rural Development, and Housing Policy Committee to order, and appreciate you all being here today. We're going to wait until Senator Hoffman arrives. We have a couple new members that we want to recognize on the committee. We'll do that here in due time. Our first item of the session, we decided to deal with a 2019 Farm and Rural Development Overview. And we have three speakers with us this afternoon that will talk to us both from a farm management, from a lending perspective, both in terms of the farm economy and in terms of the rural development economy as well. And so we have heard obviously a lot in the news in recent months about the rural economy, about the issues that are out there. And so at this time, if we could have Paul Lanou come to the testifiers table. He's going to visit with us about farm business management, what they're seeing in terms of their clients. And Paul, welcome to the committee. We will let you introduce yourself and your position. And thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much, Senator Weber. Do appreciate that. And for the remainder of the committee, it's nice to see some familiar faces here. So my name is Paul Lanou. I am the Dean of Agriculture and Business at Minnesota West Community and Technical College out in southwestern Minnesota. Additionally, I farm with my family. We raise about 2,700 acres of corn and soybeans and have 190 beef cows, and then we finish out the cattle as well. Additionally, I was a high school ag teacher and an FFA instructor, so I'm completely used to being distracted. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot them at me at any point in time, as I also have 6 children of my own. So feel free to do any of those things at any point in time. So I wanted to get started on some of the topics here of what we're talking about. Farm business management, just got to give you a little bit of a brief overview of what's going on within our program. So we have individuals that are instructors throughout the state of Minnesota. And so we've been doing farm business management, working with our farmers for the past 65 years. We currently have 68 faculty. Another one was just hired in January, with nearly 3,000 farmer students throughout the state of Minnesota in 8 different community and technical colleges. As you can see, the map that's up here is just a location of where our farmers are at and who their names are and what areas that they serve in what regions. And our faculty, they all operate kind of individually, but then they also work with their colleges at the same time. Within the world of farm business management, we have 2 centers of agriculture. So we have the Northern Center, which would be ag-centric, with Keith Olander as our director, and then the Southern Center of Agriculture is Brad Slusher. So they work with and coordinate and facilitate some of the content that we're going to be working with as our group, so that way we can be cohesive with our messaging and working with our farmers. So what are the reasons that students are in farm business management? That would be that we allow our farmers to objectively take a look at their business. We analyze the numbers all the way down to $0 discrepancy, fine-tune where all their money goes within their operations, so that way they can have an understanding of what their general cost of production is. And then we can benchmark them versus their peers, find out where they're strong, where they're not, and where they have opportunities for growth and to advance within their farm. We also help them out with their records. Farmers are great farmers, but sometimes they didn't go into farming with the idea that they wanted to do record keeping. And so we help them out with that and organizing their thought process and getting them ready for taxes and any other preparations that are needed. Oftentimes we're the first line of defense. All of my farmers have my cell phone number, and they know how to call it and text it at very random points in the day. But they're farmers, and they have those questions that they need to have answered. So in addition to being the dean of the College of Ag in Ag and Business, I also still work with 25% of my time is working with farmers as well. So I do still work with some of our farmers. And then we work together as a team where we can sit down at the table with the banker, with the farmer, with their crop advisor, with their feed salesman, with their nutritionist and the veterinarian. All of them have ideas on how we can spend all the money, but that they just don't have. And so we can help work together as a team. And we help them to be more resilient and stay in business for a longer period of time. Most likely, you potentially would have heard of our FinBin database. This is something that, if you've had an opportunity to go to any national agricultural conferences where they talk about agriculture and the economics, they use our database often. So all of the farmers that are in our program, we analyze their business down to, like I said, no discrepancies. We can get a good solid baseline. It's roughly about 10% of the farms that are over $100,000 in annual sales. So our data is the cleanest, and not to be prideful, but it's, I believe, one of the best. It is the best in the whole country for data to allow people to make those decisions. Last year we had 34,000 inquiries about different types of searches, and it's used to make policy, as you guys would do if you need research on those things, and then it helps support our economy. So just as a brief, what farmers say that the value of farm business management is, this is surveyed of all of our beginning farmers, or of all of our farmers. They were asked the question, what is the benefit? And so some of our farmers have shown that there's significant value into farm business management. Over 75%, well, our tuition is $1,800 or $1,860 or something at our college. And so it shows that the value is over that. Now, why would some be less than that? Well, they may have been required to be in the program through the Farm Service Agency as part of their lending program. Additionally, their banker may have required such things as well. Or they're just working through the beginning processes and don't have a full understanding yet. But as you can see, some of our producers, find substantial value in what we do. Do greatly appreciate the work of our legislature the last couple of years with the beginning farmer tax credit and working with the Minnesota Department of Agriculture as well. So one of the areas that's high need is our beginning farmers. And so the Department of Ag, we have 600 farmers that have accessed $600,000 in tuition assistance, where they can then get a scholarship to help pay for their farm business management tuition. So this is anybody under 10 years of farming that hasn't been in the program for 4 years. So we do greatly appreciate that one. And the tax credit option for landlords and farmers has been incredibly successful in southwestern Minnesota especially. Just because we have a lot of our individuals that the average age of the farmer is around that 58 years old. And a concern that I have in rural America is how do we get that next generation to be involved in farming? And so by doing this tax credit option, that's been strong to get some of those conversations started within family farms. I know one of our neighbors, the dad had been renting and now the son is going to start. He's just been waiting for dad to give the word. Well, Dad gave the word and said, now is the time that you should start farming. So this has been highly successful in our area, and we do greatly appreciate that. One of the issues that I wanted to bring up, though, is that we have over 1,000 individuals that don't meet the beginning farmer tax credit criteria. So myself, like I said, I do farm. I'm in my 13th year of farming right now, and just because I'm in my 13th year of farming doesn't mean that I get paid any more for my corn than others. And so we do have some individuals that don't meet that beginning criteria that are experiencing some hardship, a substantial amount of farmers that are experiencing hardship right now. So just encourage you to think about that as we go through.
Mr. Lanu.
Yes, sir.
Would you say that right now some of the issues out there as it relates to profitability are negatively affecting the ability for the transfer of operations at this point in time?
Very much so. One of the issues that I foresee, so when I was a high school ag teacher, I had one of my moms come to me and say, my son can be an FFA as long as he's not going to go into farming. And that hit me kind of hard. And I believe that today, more than ever, some of our farmer families are saying, you need to consider this because there's not enough room at the end for just mom and dad. We need to be able to make a living, and so how can we transition that? With the low commodity prices, it's incredibly difficult for one family, let alone another one, to get started.
Yes, Senator Thomasoni.
So thank you, Mr. Chairman. So first of all, would you pronounce your name Lanu if you were in France?
Actually, it's a Belgian name, and the Y came off when we came across,
okay.
And it became a U, but some would say Lanoy.
Okay,
but,
all right, I kind of thought. But anyway, go back to that previous slide.
Yes, sir.
Tell me more about what you're thinking on this 1,000 farmers that aren't beginners but should be getting something.
Well, a few years ago, there was a tuition buy down where any farmers were able to buy down the tuition. Because right now, we have 1,800 which, so we have some of our beginning farmers for the first 4 years, they can get some of this tuition assistance, but after 4 years, it drops off the face of the earth. And so I have some of the farmers that I'm working with that they may only be doing 1 quarter just to get started, and then $1,800 is a substantial amount. So in the past, we've done something where we've done a buy down on tuition, so in that way, we take off maybe 20 or 30 or 50 or 100 or whatever the number you all would decide per credit that's on there. So our farmers, they take 10 credits annually for our college, so it's $186 at our college, and then that way that would reduce the tuition cost for those farmers.
So, Mr. Chairman, so what you're saying is if you are an experienced farmer and you go back to school, you're not getting the credit? Is that what you're saying?
No, they're still getting the credit. Our farmers are getting 10 credits. Very excited. We just recently had a graduation ceremony, so our farmers can walk across stage. Most of them don't because it's during planting season, but they are able to get credits and continuing ed that way.
So who are the 1,000 that don't meet the beginning farmer credit? I'm trying to figure that out.
Sure. Well, I have one of the farmers that I work with that I'd say he's in his 50s, and he's a dairy farmer that's had some significant struggles with the dairy industry the last couple of years. Over a period of time, his net worth has dwindled dramatically to the point where he doesn't have much left. And for him to make those payments is very difficult for him to get that tuition. Another one of the farms that I used to work with before I transitioned into the role of dean, they dropped the program after I was there because they said, we know that there's value, like those previous slides showed, but we know that eventually it's going to pay off, but right now we just can't hardly pay our bills. Our feed bills are mounting up. And so that's one of those deals that it works well for the beginning. I'm just saying there's other people that are struggling at this point too. Our beginning farmers are the most vulnerable, but there's other ones that are struggling.
And Senator Tomassoni, I would also mention that one of the things that we had tried to do last year that was in the bill that was vetoed was that a lot of the beginning farmer tax credits did not extend to family members. And so we were changing that so that as a young farmer comes in and starts to acquire assets from mom and dad, that mom and dad could qualify for the benefits that accrued to a non-related third party. And so that has been the problem also, that some of the family transitioning doesn't qualify for these credits due to the current law.
So is that one of the non-controversial things in the vetoed bills?
I would hope so.
Have you reintroduced it so that we can get it passed?
It's in process.
Okay, all right, good.
Thank you very much for your question. I really do appreciate that. Just want to take a quick brief discussion about the finances of where we're at. So our next speaker is going to get a chance to speak more directly about some of those. But like I had said, our Farm Business Management Group has a very cohesive group of data and wanted to talk briefly about some of those issues and provide some statistics for you. We're in the process right now as farm business management instructors of collecting all of our farmers' data from the 2018 crop year. So we'll have some more definitive information shortly. So that's where my data is only going to go through 2017. Working for the state, I prefer not to theorize too much on data, and so I just want to present that to you with statistical here. But 2018 was a tough year for farmers. My wife and I, we talked, and we had big plans of going and doing a New Year's Eve celebration just because it was so tough. It was a rough year for my cattle, and it was a rough year for my crops. Unfortunately, it snowed, which was just the highlight of the year, and so we weren't able to get out and do anything, and so instead we hung out with the kids for that evening. But it was a rough year. It's the 5th year in a row. When we get the data back, it's going to show that it's the 5th year in a row where we have low profitability, like very, very low profitability. Throughout the state, we had variances in planting. For me, I had my cows. They swam over the fence at one point during this summer, just with the amount of rain that I had. And planting and our harvest was very difficult as well. It was incredibly varied throughout the whole state. So we're going to see so much variance in different pockets of where we're at. So I wanted to talk briefly about the FinVin data. Again, this is accessible by anybody to access. It's finvin.umn.edu, and that's the one that I had said was 34,000 inquiries annually. So this is where all of this information comes from. Again, don't want to get too delved down into the further details about it, but as you can see, 2013, 14, 15, 16, or 17, all were low profit years. When you look at the median net farm income of $28,000 in 2017, that's the lowest that it's been since 1996. We haven't had years lower than that for profitability. And for the last multitude of years, it's been very difficult as well. When you see that chart, I think that speaks great volumes of where our farmers are at. That money for the net farm income is needed to make family living payments. It's also needed to make any debt payments as well. Senator Weber.
Thank you for that information. As I look back, starting to see that the income was trending significantly downward already in 2013. I'm just thinking back, we really didn't have any unusual weather patterns that created any of that at that point in time, did we? At least on an area-wide basis?
Well, the issue is that from 10 through 12, we had some of the highest crop prices ever.
Right.
And after that, so as a farm business management instructor at that time, we had individuals that had corn that was, we'll say $5 at the beginning balance, and by the time they sold it, it was $4 or $4.50. So there was a steep decline in that. So there wasn't any weather situations or weather patterns, and so we returned back to where we currently are, which is a very depressed market.
Yeah. Senator Tomassoni.
Well, I'm from the Iron Range, and so the steel tariffs had a positive impact on what we do up there. Are these numbers reflecting tariffs, or are they not reflecting those?
No, these are not. The tariff information, that's going to be, I'll have some more information about that shortly. But like I said, this data only goes up through 2017.
Okay.
All right, when we look at balance sheets, so farmers' balance sheets have improved. They took that jump in 2012. A lot of that is due to an inflation in land values, but we're starting to see that soften dramatically at this point. The one thing that I wanted to highlight on here, though, too, is that the proportion of debt has gone up dramatically as well. So we've seen a substantial jump in 12, but a lot of debt was incurred as well. When we go on to rate of return, though, so with any sort of an asset, when we look at where we're at, our farmers' rate of return, it dropped off in 13. We're at 1.6, and now we're at 2.3. It's getting to be quite difficult. Some of our farmers would have been better off investing their money in a bond, like in a savings bond, from a rate of return component over the past couple of years. If they would, and I've shared some of this information when my farmers say, "What does this mean for the rate of return on equity?" I said, you sell off everything, you pay your bills, and you put it in a savings account, and you get 0.8% rate of return. And that's where we're at with our farmers' profitability for the amount of investment that's there. Substantial investment, minimal return, and that's what's causing some major difficulties. Yes, sir.
As you look at that, total debt, the growth in debt, has that come about mostly as a result of operating debt as opposed to long-term capital debt?
We're seeing a combination of all of them. Okay. One of the issues that we started seeing early on is, farmers would buy some equipment and then they would, take out a loan for that. I had one farmer in particular that he paid cash for a $300,000 piece of equipment because he had the ability to do so. Well, unfortunately, that burned his working capital position, and now a few years later, he doesn't have that $300,000 and he needs to restructure that debt. And the only way that that can be done is, by putting it towards his land or his equipment. Well, now he has to pay for that with after-money taxes because he's already written it off on the Section 179. Sure. So it's a combination. So we're seeing what was operating is becoming more of a long-term debt just because they're needing to do some finagling to make things work. Again, when you see the net worth and the debt to asset's climbing back up over the last period of years. So that's just saying for every dollar in debt, how much does the bank own? So the bank is starting to have a higher percentage of the business. And then when we look at the term debt coverage ratio, so this is one that concerns me greatly when we look at this. This is saying, if there's $30,000 worth of debt or $100,000 for easy math, if there's $100,000 worth of debt, there's $112,000 available to make those payments. And in 2017, the term debt ratios on some of our farmers in southwestern Minnesota, for the area that I serve specifically, it's averaged below 1.0. So where is this cash coming from to make their payments? It's coming from the operating line, as Senator Weber had mentioned. Also, any family living payments need to come off of there as well, and that's where they're getting more and more strapped in their cash position. Again, when we talk about regional differences, as you can see, I know that we represent a broad spectrum here on the committee, and so this would be an opportunity for you to see where the differences are at in net farm income. One of the two of the areas that that experienced the most dramatic drop in net farm income from 16 to 17 were in the northwest, and then the southwest corners experienced the greatest change. Again here, so the green line is our top 20% of our farmers, the red line is our bottom 20% of our farmers, and the blue is our average. So as you can see, some of our high-end farmers are still doing very well. They've found ways to be more innovative in their marketing, or they've found ways that they own their land potentially from prior years, or they may be organic producers or some other niche. I'm not specific on that, but our top 20%, they are still profitable, but it's our average is really starting to sag. When we look at that, it's kind of flatlined, and it's some of the lowest numbers that we've had. And some of our lower farms are getting lower in their profitability and losing money faster than they were before. And then family living expenses, you can see, in 2012, it was fun. It was like we won the Super Bowl, which is obviously something that we've never had an experience here. But it was like we won the Super Bowl. We felt like it. Things had an opportunity we did well. Corn was fantastic. And then it started to go back to a lower level. And we haven't had a chance to see that. And farmers are tightening their belts on their family living expenses as well. So what's on the horizon? When we take a look ahead, you'd indicated with the tariffs and other things. So this is what I did is I'd taken a look at the corn and soybean profitability in southern Minnesota over the last few years since 2013. So this is how much money they would expect to make per acre. So as you can see, in 2014, both corn and soybeans, if you farmed on rented ground, on average, you lost money. And so I was talking to some of my instructors that I work with on the way up today, and they're expecting that the results for 2018 are going to be around $100 an acre profit for soybeans, but 85 of that is from the tariff payments that were there. So without those payments, it would have been around $15 an acre. And then $65 to $115 loss is what we're seeing on corn for the 2018 year, is what we're kind of expecting. Going forward on cash flows, I was working with... I was talking to one of my instructors and asked him, how is it going? He said, it's tough. It's tough. He goes, I did 14 cash flows in the last couple of days. He said, I've only had 2 of them that have worked. He goes, I can finagle. I can try and make a few of them look prettier. But he goes, there's no way to make some of these cash flows work with today's prices and with average yields. So as I'm looking forward, I'm thinking that 2019 is going to be a more difficult cropping year than 2018 as far as profitability goes. So again, 18, 5th straight year of decreasing financial strength. My projection is that 2019 is going to be even worse than that. Farmers are trying to restructure if possible, and that's where I'd said that before. Some of our beginning farmers are in a difficult situation. So for myself, I don't own land for me to restructure upon. Typically, if a farmer is showing an operating loss for a period of years, they can take that loss and put it against their land. Our beginning farmers don't have that opportunity, or they bought land when the prices were high. They're stuck, and they can't move that forward. The access to credit in some of our farm situations is reduced or eliminated, meaning the banker says, no, we're not going to offer you that. One of my farms, his loan was renewed on January 1st, and they're still in negotiations for an operating loan for this upcoming year. He doesn't have an operating loan, and I highly suspect he's not going to get one. Most of our sectors are difficult to show any sort of a profit whatsoever. So other challenges that we're facing, tax conformity is a major issue as we're doing some of our planning. We're trying to, how do you balance the federal and with the state? For us to be doing any sort of planning is taking a lot more hours for our farm business management instructors. The consistency is quite difficult there. Succession planning, as Senator Weber had mentioned, it's difficult for us to try and, how do you transition those assets with the implications of taxes? I mean, the dads, had to laugh. I had one of my farmers that I was working with that he was in his 60s, and his son was farming with him, and I said, so we need to start talking about transition planning. He said, yeah, we do. My dad needs to get that land to me right away. I'm just like, oh, tough conversation, because I wanted to, as soon as I heard that, I thought, we need to find a way to get the land from Grandpa to the son, and it's going to skip you. That was a hard conversation. But they didn't, the taxes were a major difficulty in that situation. So succession planning is getting to be quite challenging, like I said, with the age of our farmers increasing and needing to get those young people back into our communities. That's going to be a challenge. Senator Weber.
The Mail C meetings that I attended and I am co-chair of as a result of my chairmanship here, I actually referred to, we have a generation of farmers out there as the Prince Charleses of agriculture, because mom and dad are still there and the next generation is really ready to step into it, and they're sort of caught in the middle of that sandwich, and it's going to be a real challenge making that all work.
Very much so. Well, the reason that I went into education is because I knew that there wasn't room on my family's farm. And so that's where I farm with my in-laws, because there was no next generation to have that opportunity to work with. So it's a unique challenge that we're looking at in this upcoming year. All right, again, national news. Oh, sorry.
So is this a problem with a number of people, or is it a problem with just succession planning? Because I know our loggers, they're not handing the logging businesses down to the kids anymore because the kids don't want to do that work. So I don't know, is that what's happening in farming too?
To a point. Again, I can only speak, I don't know much about logging. My
No,
apologies on that. I live out in the prairie,
I was just
so
using
our
it
2
as-
trees, we'd like to keep those up there in our section.
We'll let you keep them, but I'm just wondering, I mean, you said you had 3,000 kids in your program, so that seems to be like a substantial number of people in it.
Well, and our students that are in our program, they're adult learners.
Okay.
So they're people that are actively engaged in farming. So these are, like, my dad could be in our program, or, we have people that range from the age of 18 all the way up to 85, I believe, that are in our program at the state. So, but being the Dean of Agriculture at our school, this last couple of years we've seen a decrease in the number of our students, just because are their parents encouraging them to go into a career in agriculture? That's one of those challenges that we're facing. And so it's just, is there an ability for them to transition that to the next generation? Again, specifically within agriculture, tax implications, it's a huge deal. There's been an increased emphasis on technical trades within national dialogue, and I do appreciate that. And I think the tide is turning. It's just we just need to get more individuals back onto the farm. My kids, they love technology. And so with the GPS and those types of agricultural careers, with technology, there will be a space for them.
And Mr. Chairman, what about farm workers that work for the farmers? Are you having any problem with finding them?
Well, I have 6 kids, so that's not an issue at our place. But my oldest is 14. No, but that is a challenge, to get a qualified workforce to be there, or a willing workforce. I think I heard a statistic like 1/3 of the cows in the state of Minnesota wouldn't be milked without a migrant workforce. And so that's a national conversation that prefer to avoid if at all possible, but it is an issue that we do have.
I was going to bring it up, so I'm glad you mentioned it.
Thank you. All right, again, like I said, national news, that's where I was going to just touch briefly on some of those national topics that don't relate to here, but it is impacting the home farm. Soybean prices decreased, commodities not being able to be exported. That's a challenge. So when the beef market opened up a few years ago to China, my beef was sold to that packer right beforehand, so I think that my beef may have had a chance to go to China, but that's closed at this point, and so the premium that I've received for those has been decreased. Again, increase in the number of farmer-lender mediations. Those are going up at a tremendous rate with our farmers. I do appreciate the Minnesota law that requires the mediation process, but we are seeing more of our farmers going through that, which is, again, putting a stress on our farm business management instructors as well, as we work with our farmers in the absence of advocates. All right, another topic to discuss would be the farmer mental health. I'd asked a few of my farmers, how are you doing? Every one of my meetings, that's the most important and first question that I ask them. And the overwhelming response that I'm getting back from them is they're tired. They're just tired. They're getting beat down. It's been 5, going on 6 years with no end in sight. Currently, there's one farm psychologist in Minnesota. His name is Ted Matthews, fantastic individual, a tremendous resource for our farmers and for our instructors. If we can replicate Ted, that would be fantastic. We need more Teds. We need more individuals to help with our farmers. He's one individual. He can only do so much with the increased need that we have. Sad thing is that suicide hotline notes are being sent in milk checks. It's not a good sign. The stress is taking a toll on families and communities. I'd asked an individual that works specifically with dairies, I said, with dairy farms, I said, what are you seeing with our individuals that are in dairy? And she made a comment that kind of scared me a little bit. She said, our dairy farmers are scared. And she goes, what her reasoning on the dairy farmers is that they're afraid to leave their places, some of them that she's working with, because they owe so many people money that they don't want to go out in the community and face those individuals. They don't know how to pay their bills or how they can with the dairy economy being as tough and as difficult as it is. And I put on there my student Bob. So I work with a variety of people as a farm business management instructor, and you get to know these farmers very, very well and very personally, them and their families. A little over a year ago, I lost one of my farmers, Bob, to mental health issues. That was a sad deal. That was very sad for his family. His wife, I had to go through and we had to market the grain with her, and she was left alone after that, and I gave her a call just to check to make sure she's okay with sharing the story. But she's not alone. There's a lot of people that are out there that are suffering. It's one of the more isolated careers where you're out in the farm, and when you have a bad day, there's nobody to tell you that it's going to get better. All you see is a cow that wants to kick you, is kind of the feeling, the way it feels sometimes. And so just know that it is a major topic within our rural economy. I do appreciate it being in the last session in the bill to have an increase in the number of farm psychologists, and I would highly encourage that into the future as well. So what are we doing at Minnesota West? As part of my role of Dean in Ag and Business and as a farmer and a farm business management instructor, I've taken a keen interest in farm business management and recognizing that there is a pending, that this is coming down the line. We could see this as a slow-moving train wreck really quick. This didn't just pop up overnight. It's been happening. And so over the past few years, we've been adding new instructors. So since 2006, we had 6 full-time and 4 part-time. Well, up to this upcoming year, we're expecting to have 11 full-time instructors and 3 part-time instructors, where some of our part-time switched to full-time. So we've increased the capacity, and as Senator Weber had indicated with the Meal C organization and the Meal C funds, that's given us the courage to do some of these, to invest in our farmers and our communities by adding new instructors, and we'd like to continue to do that this upcoming year. I put an asterisk by it because pending additional funding, we've added so many new instructors. It costs our college money to add instructors and to add people, and so we're at a little bit of a hold. But when we look at the number of farmers that were enrolled, since 2016 we went from 369 all the way up to 452, almost 100 new farms in just 2 years that we've had by increasing capacity and working with them. So credits are up, and we do appreciate that dramatically for the support to the Meal C, for the Meal C group. Again, that's all that I have for my content. Feel free to ask any questions. I would greatly appreciate that at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Lanou. Any further questions on the part of committee members? Senator Dames.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Dean Lanou, for coming in today. I really don't have a question, just want to thank you for your work that you're doing, Southwest Minnesota, and for our agricultural community, and thank you for being here today to present this. Thank you.
Thank you much for your time.
Senator Thomasoni.
Just a logistics thing. So do you interact at all with the University of Minnesota in what you do?
Well, so the FinBin database, so it's one of the unique things within the Minnesota state system. So the FinBin database, a lot of the data comes from our Minnesota state instructors, the 8 colleges across the state. And then we work with the University of Minnesota where they house the FinBin data. And so we work together jointly on that one. We do work, we have upcoming this weekend is an Ag Teacher Conference in St. Cloud where we will be working with the University of Minnesota. The University of Minnesota has a farm, like a farm business management program for people who can't afford farm business management people. And what it is it's 5 retired instructors is what they have out there to try and help. So we're working with the University of Minnesota in that respect. Within the world of agriculture, we play nice, especially with the University of Minnesota.
Senator Goggin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Going back to the slide with the succession planning, and Senator Thomasoni asked about finding employees to work on the farms. Where are you folks finding workers to come work on your farms? Are there other areas that programs that you take advantage of, or to look into bringing people onto your farms?
Again, that depends on the situation, the size of the farm. Some of our more mid-sized farms have some troubles with that. An example in particular, I was working with a dairy farm in Lincoln County, and they were saying, well, we're going to hopefully hire somebody to help milk our cows. There's 5,500 people in the entire county. Who's going to be coming out to Lincoln County to help milk their cows? We need to bring that workforce in. And so I know one of my neighbors out by Tracy has I don't know the exact name of the program, but where he has students from other countries that are learning about agriculture come and work with them, so that way they can get some experience about our production methods here in the United States, and then they go back to their home countries after that. We got to get creative to get people out here. There's a shortage of workers or willing workers, I guess I should say, in order to come and work on our farms. And as we have a disconnect with our population, we're going to see that grow. So the importance for agricultural education is tremendous to get more of these students exposed to where their food comes from.
Yeah,
Senator Goggin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that program that you're talking about with the students from other countries is the H-2A visa program.
Okay.
That allows those folks to come in. I was fortunate when I was growing up. I was a city kid, but I worked on a dairy farm. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, we're not seeing much of that happening anymore. And it'd be nice if there's some way we could find creative ways to get kids excited to go work on the farm. I loved it, so I'd recommend anybody in high school. It's a great job and a great way to stay in shape for football and hockey and stuff. So
very much so. We have a few rocks to pick if you know of anybody that would like to do that job as well.
I picked enough rocks and beans in my lifetime. Thank you.
Yeah, Senator Thomasoni.
I can't help this one, so I'll let you go. But so I was at the state fair, and there was this automatic cow milking machine that had all these laser beams and all this kind of stuff. And I think it was like $200,000. Do very many farmers use it?
Well, when I was a farm business management instructor, my first cash flow that I did was for one of those robotic dairies. And the reason they did it is they couldn't find workers. And they knew that they needed a reliable worker that would show up every day. And so they went to an automated system. They knew that it was going to cost $200,000, or it was about $300,000 at the time. It was going to cost $300,000, but they said, I know that this worker is going to show up every day. And that's what they ended up having to go to from an automation standpoint. So, yeah, those laser milkers they're very cool to see if you haven't had a chance to do that.
So, Mr. Chairman, so how many are there in use in Minnesota, do you know?
Ooh. I don't know that number. I do know that the number has grown from when I first done my cash flow to where it is now. In our database, we've had 10 farms that have submitted that, but I know that there's more than that. They're just not in our farm business management program.
So, Mr. Chairman, say you got 300 cows. Do you need 10 of those machines, or does one work? Or
typically, the ratio is about 60 to 1, so 60 cows for one robotic milker.
Okay.
So, and Senator Hurt.
This is almost like a random question, but do you have any plan on reaching out to young students in the metro and see if there's a pipeline there to farm, especially to people who have farming heritage, like in their family, So, have you ever thought about something like that?
Yeah, thank you very much for that idea. I do appreciate that. I've been focused more in our region out in southwestern Minnesota, which is a little bit of ways away, but you bring up a very good point that there's other people that may want to return to those. I know that our individuals within the Centers of Agriculture are doing more work with that and with the Meal C organization as well to do some findings to make sure that we can work with our more metro folks to see if we can have them raise an awareness. I know there's a few metro schools that have agricultural programs, so that way those students can be more aware and get more exposure. We need the workers. We need people in agriculture, and so if they've got a history of grandpa or grandma or whatever type of a family they can think of, we need people in agriculture. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you so much, Mr. Lanoux, for being here. We appreciate the information. And have a safe trip home.
Thank you so much, Senator Weber. Appreciate the committee's time.
At this point, I'd like to bring Jeff Schmidt to the table. Is with Ag Country Farm Services, Compeer Financial. We'll talk about the Farm Credit Association's outlook on our ag economy. Welcome, Mr. Schmidt.
Thank you.
Please identify yourself and your position for the purpose of the record, Mr. Schmidt.
Yes, Mr. Chair. My name is Jeff Schmidt. I'm the Chief Risk Officer for Ag Country Farm Credit Services, based in Fargo, North Dakota. I work out of our Wilmer office, and I thank you for the opportunity to discuss with you in the committee today the state of ag in Minnesota, along with the rural economy in Minnesota. I thought first I'd just kind of quickly highlight a little bit about Farm Credit, who we are. Farm Credit supports rural communities and agriculture by providing a consistent and source of credit and financial services. Farm Credit was established by Congress in 1916, and it's our sole mission is agriculture in rural communities, and helping to provide the necessary capital and infrastructure financing and communication financing to allow our farmers and rural economy to grow and thrive. The Farm Credit system is exclusively, as I mentioned, dedicated to supporting agriculture. Farm Credit supplies more than a third of the credit in the United States to farmers and rural residents. And when you roll that up, we're talking that Farm Credit serves over 500,000 member borrowers nationwide and provides roughly about $253 billion in loans and related services. Couple of distinctions that set Farm Credit apart from other lenders. Farm Credit is a cooperative. We're owned by the same borrowers that borrow money from us are our owners. So that's a little bit unique in that we have both sides of the balance sheet that we look out for. Our members have a say in the association's financial performance and governance. The association boards are primarily elected borrower directors. We also have appointed directors that bring financial expertise and other perspectives to the board. Currently, there's over 60 associations nationwide that provide financing. In Minnesota, there's two, Compeer Financial and Ag Country Farm Credit Services. When you look at Farm Credit in Minnesota, we serve over 41,000 rural and agribusiness customers. And I should mention that when I'm talking about agribusiness, CoBank also serves that sector of co-op financing and agribusiness. They're an ag bank, a little bit different charter than Compeer and Ag Country. Rolled up, and this also includes AgriBank, which is based in St. Paul, another district ag bank that provides financing to associations. There's roughly 839 employees, and I have to apologize, there's an error on this slide. There's 27 offices, and that's solely in the state of Minnesota. And roughly between CoBank, Compeer, and Ag Country, there's roughly about $13 billion in financing that we provide to agribusinesses and farmers in the state of Minnesota. The next slides and our discussion, I'll say, will be presented from Ag Country's point of view. I have our mission, as we've talked about, is to support agriculture in rural America, and our vision is to be your destination for success. And as Paul kind of mentioned, the current ag environment, I was here a year ago. I wish I could say things have improved, but as Paul kind of detailed, we're looking at basically our 5th or 6th year of challenging returns in agriculture. We have large supplies of a number of our commodities that are keeping our prices below break-evens for our producers. It's early yet to really have real good information with regards to 2018, but 2018 compared to the last couple of years, highly variable when you look at the weather conditions and production across the state of Minnesota. We've had a drought in northwestern Minnesota, and as Paul mentioned, you get to southern Minnesota, we had flooding. And we've had some of our early discussions with our farmers. We've seen significantly above average crops to below average and even below multi-peril guarantee levels. And as you start to look at that, producers that I'll say were more towards above average crops tend to have a slight profit. Paul kind of mentioned term debt repayment capacity. While they're showing slight profit levels, in general, not enough necessarily to be able to repay their debt and also cover family living. In cases where producers were experiencing weather issues and had yields below their multi-peril guarantee levels, we're seeing losses in excess of $100 per acre farmed, and that has a significant impact on balance sheets. And one of the things I'll say that we have that we're seeing that's helped out in 2018 that may not be here for 2019 are the market facilitation payments that are primarily what we found is producers on the soybean side are experiencing some positive returns due to that market facilitation payment. However, some of our other sectors, such as dairy, not necessarily seeing as good of a bounce from any market facilitation payments. As Paul showed, we were basically looking at a 5 to 6 year down cycle, and that's what probably is our biggest concern is that trend of having 5 to 6 consecutive years of lower returns and losses makes it very tough. The term was used tired, and I would echo that. And a lot of our producers are tired of this environment and the challenges that go with it. Producers have had to tap into their equity to rebalance debt. A question was raised, are we seeing growth in operating and in other forms of debt? Most of our growth is occurring from operating losses, and then that is moved down the balance sheet as we've had to rebalance debt to real estate or to machinery to rebuild working capital. We're starting to come across situations now where we've had to do that 3 times during this cycle. And each time you do that, it gets tougher and tougher usually to find equity to be able to rebalance the necessary debt down to allow adequate working capital levels for those producers. Right now, the largest asset on a typical farmer's balance sheet is the farmland that they own. On average, that's roughly about 75% of their asset value. And we've seen a drop in farmland values over the last few years. Farm credit associations annually do what they call a benchmark survey of some benchmark farms that serve as a proxy for kind of what land values are doing in various areas. When I look at Ag Country's benchmark farms for 2018, we see a range of about 7% up to down 10%, and more falling in the I'll say 0 to 10% down area. And when you go back and look at where land values were in 2013, we're seeing that over the last 6 years, benchmark values are down anywhere between 24 and 30% from those levels back in 2013. When we look at some of the issues, Paul mentioned what we're seeing for 2019 cash flows. I would echo that. It's very challenging to see a cash flow that works. Input costs probably still need to adjust to I'll say the current realities that we're dealing with. Cash rents have been still fairly strong when you look at the percent of producers' gross income that's going to land rents. Historically, typically it's in that 25 to 35% range.
Mr. Schmidt, Senator Westrom has a question.
Sure.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Mr. Schmidt, just to that topic, when do you think rents may correct, or do you think they've corrected as much as they're going to? It does seem like they've held up longer than the markets, and so it's an interesting observation that you say that. I don't farm, but just talking to farmers across the area, my district and home area, it does seem like the rents have stayed fairly strong, which is good for the landowner. But just your observation on that a little bit more, I'd appreciate it.
Very good question. I wish I knew. There's a lot that goes into that. So, a couple of things. There's still a lot of demand for farmland. Operations are trying to grow to limit or lower, I should say, their fixed cost per acre. So they're trying to gain some efficiencies. So when a parcel does come up, there's a good bidding for it, which holds those values up. In addition, I'll say the ability that producers have had to rebalance debt and restore working capital has allowed rent levels probably to stay a little higher than if they didn't have quite the access to liquidity that they've had. The spin, I'll say, and you mentioned that it's good for landlords having land values stay up. It has also helped producers that have had the need to sell a parcel of land to rebalance their position as well. With land values staying up, it's allowed them to sell, pay off debt, and also rebalance and restore liquidity. So there's a lot of tentacles, I'll say, that go with rent costs coming down. You would expect then land values to come down, which could impede the ability for producers to rebalance on their own if they can't necessarily find more debt to put against a parcel.
Mr. Chair, follow up.
Senator Westrom.
Just what do you see with property taxes factoring into that equation? It seems like they've been on the rise for several years now. Back in 2000, we did a major property tax overhaul that seemed to rebalance property taxes. But I'm hearing some pretty high numbers. But what are you seeing and hearing out there? Because I know that all factors into the rent as well.
So, and a very good point again. In general, I'll say taxes have gone up from levels that we were seeing kind of before 2008, 2009. What we're seeing on our producers, and it varies dramatically based on local decisions, but we see property taxes anywhere from $35 to $75 an acre. In general, I'll say our property taxes are higher than some of our neighboring states, so that does put some of our producers at a competitive disadvantage. As you know, you're not necessarily getting paid more for a bushel of corn grown in Minnesota than you are in Iowa or South Dakota. So it is a challenge. I know that there's been some measures that have been undertaken to try to mitigate some of that, and I would encourage that to continue to be looked at to try to help when you looked at the returns that Paul had up there, we're going back to levels that we saw in the mid-2000s, and maybe those are more reflective of our current world than where we were in the, I'll say, the 2009 to 2013 area. Paul mentioned and kind of showed family living. That's another area that is a challenge, especially when you start to look at healthcare costs. That's one of the other expenses that our producers are having a challenge trying to manage around. And, I'll say from a perspective that as you start to add more debt into operations, interest cost starts to become a bigger issue, and interest rates have risen about 2.25% here over the last couple of years with the Fed moves. So with lower and negative profitability as producers borrow more at higher interest rates, that puts a strain on the cash flow as well. When you have growing debt and a decreasing cash flow, that's usually not sustainable over the long run. When you look at the approaches that we're taking, we're striving for long-term customer success. We try and take a balanced approach in both good times and tougher times. And I think that shows out with regards to when you look at our credit quality, and Ag Country in particular, while we've seen that increase to about 3.5%, from a low of about 0.5% in 2013. We expect that to increase again in 2019. We're projecting that we're going to be about 7% adverse. And when I talk about adverse, from our regulator's perspective, that means basically you have acceptable loans, and adverse loans are higher risk loans that from a regulator standpoint, there's concern as you start to see that increase. We're certainly willing to withstand classification pressure as we work with our borrowers through this adversity. We certainly want to go the extra mile with our owners and borrowers. We need to do that in a safe and sound manner. And as some of the previous discussion was detailing, it's very tough to get new farmers into the industry. So we certainly do not want to not work with the ones that are in the industry right now. Again, I'll say Paul mentioned it, and what we probably tend to see, we spend a lot of time right now consulting, trying to educate and go over where people's break-evens are. We're working to provide educational opportunities for marketing, crop insurance, tax, succession, and retirement, along with working on rebalances, loan extensions, interest-only payments, and use of other programs out there with FSA and Minnesota RFA as well. I think our proactive servicing and counseling with customers, shows that right now when we look at our portfolio, loan delinquencies are still pretty stable with where they were a year ago. Roughly about 0.4% of our loan volume is 30 days past due. Foreclosures and bankruptcies that we have in our portfolio are very limited. Most customers have chosen of orderly liquidation or transition out of farming if they make the decision that they don't have viable operations as an ongoing farm. There are a handful of customers on the verge of bankruptcy or foreclosure in the portfolio right now, but those numbers remain very low relative to our overall portfolio. Most of the time, like I said, loan structuring and rebalances are still out, available options for our producers, and we're working with those producers if that is an option. Really what it comes down to when we evaluate the options, it's really what their risk appetite is. As I mentioned and Paul mentioned, there's a number of producers that are tired and are not willing to risk additional loss of equity, and their desire to keep farming is waning, and they're making the decision basically to scale back. Each case is different. I wish there was a kind of a one-size-fits-all approach, but it's really on a case-by-case basis that we look and work with our producers on what options are available out there. And one thing I will say, I mentioned consulting. Our help isn't just on the financial side. As Paul mentioned, we are seeing increased stress levels out on the farm and in the rural economy. We're trying to combat the stigma surrounding mental health while providing help. In the last year, we've sponsored statewide mental health training workshops. We're sharing mental health resources through our social media channels and websites. We're training our employees on how to spot issues and deal with stressed customers. And I would just echo what Paul would say, resources to help in that area. We're certainly welcome. We've worked very closely with Ted as well, and he's a great individual, but there's only one. In summary, I just would like to share again that our mission is to serve agriculture and the rural communities. We're a member-owned cooperative. Our borrowers are our owners, so we look for our best interest of our patrons and owners at the same time. And with that, Mr. Chair, I'd open it up for any additional questions.
Thank you, Mr. Schmidt. Questions on the part of the committee? Seeing none at this point, we thank you for coming and for presenting this data, and we look forward to hearing from you again.
Thank you.
Thank you. As Mr. Amundsen is coming forward, I just want to take this time to recognize the new members on our committee, and we have Senator Dames joining us, and he previously served up until 2 years ago as the lead on the Senate Ag Committee. And we have Senator Hoffman. Have you ever been on the Ag Committee before, Senator Hoffman?
I have not.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome to both of you. So I look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have a quick question on our last response, and I don't know,
yes.
maybe this is something on the mental health hotline that they have. Is that something that the Department of Public Health or the Department of Human Services, how is that? Is that Save Minnesota, or who's helping collaborate or coordinate the efforts because of this, the whole issue of that continued care within the mental health industry and specifically in public health? It would be interesting to find out how they're connecting.
Senator Hoffman, as it relates to the hotline, I can't really share with you at this point. Does anyone here else have information on that?
Mr. Chairman, I know the appropriation that we give goes to the Department of Ag, and then they work with, I believe it's Southwest State, and so yeah, they collaborate that, and then they work out different people to do the hotline, but maybe the Department of Ag can help out that.
Thank you, and I didn't catch misplaced back in the back there. Would you please identify yourself and share some data with us, please?
Hi, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Whitney Place. I serve as Assistant Commissioner at the Minnesota Department of Agriculture. Yes, we do host a rural mental health hotline at the Department of Agriculture, and I know that the Department of Health also has like a suicide prevention line. Our line kind of has different routes that people can take if you're a farmer facing a stressful situation. So if you need financial assistance, you can be directed. If you are contemplating suicide or something more serious, we can direct you to mental health professionals.
So, Mr. Chair, as a follow-up, so when we look at the agencies, every agency that's doing their own siloed approach to, especially mental health now has become such a global discussion, and it's touching everything from education, which Senator Dames and I used to serve on, and all the way through to specifically early childhood, even our elderly. We're seeing that more as our aging population is increasing. So I know, especially when you feel you're the last, a dear friend of mine is a farmer in Winstead, and he's like sometimes the only person out in the middle of the field. And if you don't see him in the future, you'll see him in the pasture. So that was supposed to be funny. Thank you. Thanks, Tori. But what are you doing specifically so that we're not spending money that's going to independent, this when it should be collaborative, so there's a contingency and there's a consistency in services being provided or options, especially within the Department of Public Health and Department of Human Services in connection with private organizations like NAMI, Minnesota Association of Mental Health. Those folks that sit out there, it would be interesting. I would like to see how that's being done, because you don't want to leave people hanging out there, and if it's just a one-shop thing.
Mr. Chair, Senator Hoffman, yes, we work very closely with other agencies who are involved with dealing with mental health. I know that they are facing some issues as well, as far as, making sure we have enough rural mental health beds available and mental health professionals in counties. We feel at the department that it's really important to have someone like Ted Matthews and people like those who work for this hotline that we have to have some farm background so that they can kind of understand some of the situations that these people are facing. But yes, we want to make sure we are coordinated throughout the system so that we're utilizing the resources as best as possible.
Mr. Chair, just as a follow-up, just because that kind of work in this world, can we get a report of calls, et cetera? You guys would do that as part of your yearly. You turn that data into someplace or somewhere, and maybe it's already been shared with this group, but I would personally like to see that, because especially if there's a capacity problem, if we keep hearing about, hey, it's only going to get worse for our farmers out there, what are we doing to ensure our infrastructure is set up so we can help support what's next, whether it be connecting with other resources within the local communities or et cetera. But I would like to see some type of data that shows what you guys are doing there.
Mr. Chair, Senator Hoffman, we're happy to provide that.
Thank you, Ms. Place. Senator Westrom?
Mr. Chair, and as I'm going to answer to Senator Hoffman, I guess that it strikes me that you're not on the Ag Finance Committee, so this maybe it doesn't totally make it relevant. We do have some of that information I anticipate coming up with some of our budget reviews, and we've discussed it in the past. So to modify what I was going to respond and say that it would be in the Ag Finance, we'd be coming up with it, Senator Hoffman, knowing you're not on that, Ms. Place, any information you could get to Senator Weber's committee and Senator Hoffman, and that would be probably helpful, but we will. So Senator Hoffman, it is something we will look at further as well in the financing budget of that area. We did pass additional mental health, ag mental health funding last year. That again was in the overall supplemental budget bill that didn't make it past a veto. So I anticipate that's something we will look at in earnest again. But thanks.
In the policy, Mr. Chair, the policy implication there, when we did the school-based mental health, there was an issue there with sometimes the school districts weren't, it was the allotment of a third party being involved, and there were some policy implications there that were stopping that from happening, and I would just like to be curious to see if that is the case here, because if that is the case, then it is specifically a policy piece. But the data would help define what really they're doing on the capacity side. So thank you. I look forward to getting that from either your committee or from Senator Weber's committee.
Senator Thomasoni.
And Mr. Chairman, as you can see, Senator Hoffman's expertise on this is very well needed on this committee because he is an expert on mental health, and I believe he does have one farm in his district.
Thank you for the first zinger of the day, Senator Thomasoni. At this point, and thank you, Ms. Place. At this point, I'd like to introduce to you Jim Amundson, and he's representing the Independent Community Bankers of Minnesota. And Mr. Amundson, welcome, thank you, and please state your name and expand on your introduction there for purposes of the record.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon, Chair Weber and committee members. Thank you for the opportunity to be with you today. As you just mentioned, my name is Jim Amundson, and I'm the President and CEO of the Independent Community Bankers of Minnesota. ICBM, as we're known in short, is a trade association that has represented the collective interests of community banks since 1962. We have about 220 individual charters in our membership, which equates to nearly 600 bank locations in the state of Minnesota and over 24,000 jobs statewide. Minnesota actually holds the third largest number of community banks in the nation, behind only Illinois and Texas. And our great state was also the birthplace of what is now ICBA, the Independent Community Bankers of America, was organized near Glenwood, Minnesota in 1930. So Minnesota has a long history of independence, community bank advocacy, and community bank service to families, farms, and small business. In fact, Minnesota has nearly 200 bank charters that are over 100 years old. Truly remarkable when you consider all that has happened over the last century, or even more. Root River State Bank in Chatfield is our oldest bank in the state, established in 1856, if you can believe that. I'm thankful for the opportunity that the committee is providing to seek input from community banks, as we do play a major role in rural economic development, both in Minnesota and in the nation. Nationwide, community banks comprise about 99% of all banks in the country. We provide over 60% of all small business loans and more than 80% of agricultural loans. We do so very effectively as well. According to the Federal Reserve Small Business Credit Survey, 73% of independent businesses that used community banks report they were satisfied with the overall experience, compared with 49% for large banks and 35% for online lenders. As you all know well, rural economic development is complex and faces many challenges. However, I'd like to make one thing clear today, and that's I don't believe access to capital is one of those challenges. Our members, the community banking industry in Minnesota, is strong, healthy, well-capitalized, and ready to provide funding to families, farms, and small businesses. So what are some of the challenges or barriers our members see in the area of rural development? Over the last several months, we have collected feedback from our board, legislative committee, and other leadership bankers regarding the topic, and I'll cover with you today some of what we've heard. I'll admit I'm probably not going to break any major new ground for you today, but hopefully it's helpful for you to hear from our perspective the challenges that some of our rural communities are facing. I will not spend as much time specifically covering agriculture as the two gentlemen did quite well before me, but it is nearly impossible to discuss rural development without including a comment on ag. There is so much interconnectivity between what happens on the farm and what happens in the community. Therefore, we truly believe as an association that any conversation in state government and federal government about rural economic development must have agriculture at the top of the list. Secondly, rural development is impacted by all the same social and economic challenges facing our greater state and nation. While these issues are all very important that I'm going to touch on in a second here, some are outside the scope of this committee and certainly outside the time that we have today. But items like affordable housing, tax climate, and competitiveness on, especially in some of our border cities, permitting and licensing, transportation, local wage and labor laws, healthcare, crime, and drugs are all issues that our community banks are seeing in the rural communities that they're serving, and so they're certainly not immune to those challenges that the metro and urban and other areas are seeing as well. So despite the weight of the items that I just mentioned, I do have three other issues where I believe some agreement should be sought and hopefully can be found. The first one that we hear pretty consistently is child care. We hear concerns from our members about the impact that child care has on their local communities. In some cases, it's a scarcity issue, other cases a cost issue, but in many cases, it is both, as you well know. And while I don't have any specific examples of community bank-driven solutions in this area, I do pledge our willingness as a group to be part of the problem-solving process and assist in any solutions identified as a result. I also respectfully ask this committee and the rest of the legislature to think clearly about decisions that increase the cost of child care and/or inhibit the ability of qualified licensed providers to enter or remain in the industry. The second item that we hear consistently is workforce, people. Certainly a lack of skilled trades is clearly a factor in many communities. We believe a renewed emphasis and support of vocational and technical education seems quite important for rural economic development. However, there's also a need to increase the sheer number of people in these communities. The Minneapolis Fed and President Neil Kashkari have provided some important thought leadership on this topic recently, but it seems evident that communities need to embrace, support, and encourage immigrant entrepreneurs if we are to see the rural economic development we seek. There are many examples I could cite, but First State Bank Southwest is a bank that we highlighted recently in our member magazine. They are working with the Southwest Initiative Foundation and other community partners to help immigrant entrepreneurs overcome the many barriers they face. And there are many. We don't have time to go through them all today, but they've done some great work. The success and positive outcomes that have come from their efforts are truly remarkable. And at some point in the future, if we had more time, I'd be happy to share some of those examples with you. Finally, rural broadband, which is certainly not a unique issue or one that you've not heard much about, I'm sure, but it's a very real issue that impacts our members, their customers, and their communities. To compete, educate, and communicate in today's economy, it is essential to have fast, reliable internet. It really is the fifth utility. While I can't explore all possible solutions with you today, I would like to highlight some solutions that some of our members have used to try to tackle this issue. We have a story on our website highlighting the work of Falcon National Bank up in the St. Cloud area. Falcon has used SBA, Small Business Administration, loan programs to provide financing for cellular and fiber optic expansions in communities they serve. We also highlighted Pro-Growth Bank and First National Bank of Fairfax in our member magazine last August. These banks worked with other community leaders to form a cooperative known as RS Fiber. It took a lot of hard work from a lot of people to make it happen, but the community banks were right in the middle of it. Business planning, securing funding, providing loans, and even working with the OCC, the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, to allow the bank to make an equity investment under its Public Welfare Investment Authority. This has been a real game changer for the people living and working in Renville and Sibley counties. It did require some public support, but it is a very strong public-private effort, and I think an example of what can happen when those two groups come together and seek a solution. So in closing, I hope my comments have given you a good understanding of community banks in Minnesota, the role we've played and will continue to play in rural economic development. I hope that I've offered you a helpful summary of some of the current issues as we see them, and I'd like to reiterate that these topics were provided by many of our 220-some bank members. And once again, thank you for considering our perspective as you begin your work this legislative session. If we can assist in the future, please don't hesitate to call on us. I'd be happy to try to answer some questions if there are any.
Senator Herr.
Thank you, Mr. Edmondson. You did mention about the immigrant farmer and also entrepreneur. I know it probably take longer to explain, but can you give us some percentage of those who take advantage, like in quantified for the immigrant farmers or entrepreneurs that utilize your resource?
So how many of those types of borrowers have chose to bank with community banks?
Yes, correct.
I wouldn't be able to give you that number. I could work on it and get back to you if you wouldn't mind, but it, in our magazine story, it was 3 local businesses that, a number of different industries as well, and I think that that's part of why we do this is to identify solutions and some positive opportunities for other community banks and similar communities that might not be taking the same view of it or approach. But I'd be happy to try to get that number for you. Thank you for the question.
Senator Hoffman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Amundson brought up about we want us to be cognitive of the increased costs or inhibiting, somebody to remain in the industry and growth. And you had done, this committee, I believe, you took the charge in going out and speaking with child care providers. Is there some information from that report that backs that up, or if Mr. Amundson has some ideas, does that match with what you were doing as a group this last summer?
Well, Senator Hoffman, I think that in the stops that the working group made around Minnesota, I think it was fairly universal that indeed there's nobody that's in this business for the money, and that as we look at both their ability to charge for their services and as we look at the costs that they incur in order to provide the service, they really in many instances are being placed in a substantial squeeze. Whether they're running a daycare center or whether they're actually providing in-home daycare, which quite frankly in rural Minnesota is the bulk of our daycare. They also have a serious concern that if we as a legislature go ahead and fund universal pre-K for 4-year-olds, it will financially destroy the rest of the daycare that's left in rural Minnesota. And in light of the rules that are out there, the age mix that they have to live with, it just provides an impossibility for them to survive. And so the comment about cost is indeed very real. Yeah.
Mr. Chair, it sounds like what he's saying is consistent with what you found as in your report, so that's good.
Mr. Amundson, as you talk about housing, I guess one of the concerns that I have had since taking over chairing this committee is the cost of housing that we see that's involved with particularly state programs. As we look at workforce housing or what have you, what we often like to call affordable workforce housing, as I see the final cost show up in some of our communities, I don't really understand what's all affordable about it anymore. Can you give any insight from the banking perspective on that problem?
Well, it's a very good question, Senator, and I'll take my best shot at it. Might have to get back to you on some of that, but there's a lot of factors that drive the cost of any property, right? But land costs, construction costs, permitting fees, et cetera. I don't think that it's, while there's certainly a cost of financing, I don't believe that it's the cost of financing that's driving those costs up significantly. But it's, you hear people comment about the fact that there's a lot of people that talk about affordable housing, and yet government is consistently raising property taxes, which is a significant cost as well. And I don't mean that as a negative comment, but just a reality of all the different items that go into the cost of constructing any sort of housing. I don't know if I don't believe that answers your question, but I'd be happy to try to get more data if you could share with me kind of a little more specifics on what you're looking for.
And we can certainly talk offline about that, so thank you. Any other questions? If not, thank you, Mr. Amundson, for sharing your data with us. And committee members, we do not have a committee meeting on Thursday. And so at this point, I know you're heartbroken, Senator Hoffman, but we will get you acclimated quickly enough. And with that, this committee stands adjourned. Thank you.